Hi Nim fam, welcome to 5 Things FPL. Hope you're all doing good. There are still some fixtures to come this evening with Game Week 22 dragging itself right out, but there's absolutely plenty to chat about ahead of Game Week 23, although it is still very much up in the air. Let's get Fergie in and get on with discussing all of the top talking points ahead of the weekend. Hey Fergie, how you doing, buddy?
The name, I'm not bad, thanks. A bit frustrated after the game was called off last night, but I'm hoping Cristiano Ronaldo makes an appearance this evening. Apparently, he was on the bus, which is
do we have bus pictures?
Apparently he was on the bus. I think it was either last night or this morning. He was pictured on the bus, which is obviously a good sign because he's been flying around and whatever else he's been doing over the last few days. We've all been tracking his chartered plane and stuff. But
it's been a bit
hopefully
mad.
Gets us something tonight.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? And
Would.
With him being the biggest percentage captaincy owned this week, I guess it's only right that we start where we always do, chatting about the potential captaincy options ahead of Game Week 23. Now, this is a tough one, as, you know, Salah is still away, so we can't just go straight there with perma captain. But who do you have the armband on currently, Fergie?
I've got to be honest, I was kind of waiting for the game week to unfold and, all the games we played before. But I had a quick look earlier and my goodness, there's no standout option really, is there?
No.
It's really tough. The kind of names I'm looking at, the Man City mids or Cancelo, maybe away to Southampton could be a good option, though. Southampton have been scoring a few goals recently. The defense is not the best. But they've also conceded a few as well. So maybe the mids, maybe someone like De Bruyne, but he is quite low owned. He's not really an easy player to get to, is he? Unless you moved on from maybe Bruno, something like that. Couple of the names, if you own Dennis, for example, home to Norwich, so they have been quite a consistent recently. Watford, and it's a bit tough to put your armband on a Watford player, because at the end of the day they're losing every match they play, more or less. It's a bit of a strange one. And then you've got the United too, home to West Ham. We've got Ronaldo, we've got Bruno, home to West Ham, who haven't been that good at the back. And another one, well, there's obviously Trent away to Palace. Could be a decent one, though. It's not really one that excites me because I do fancy Palace to score, and then you're like solely relying on attacking returns from him. And maybe Rafinha home to Newcastle. So I probably named a whole host there, but it's purely because, as it stands, with no double game week confirmed, it's really, really tough and wide open. And I think we could see some massive swings this week in ranks due to captaincy and due to just a massive variation of players in teams as well. Have you got the armband on you at the moment, or are you waiting and seeing as well?
Well, I'm waiting and seeing, obviously, because that's just the sensible thing to do at the moment in FPL. But the armband is currently on Bowen for me at the moment. His form and United's tack for conceding goals. As a David De Gea owner, I have been all too noticeable of him conceding goals. So at the moment, my armband is on the form of Bowen. However, as you say, if Villa do end up doubling, I am considering buying Coutinho and captaining him. Everton have been terrible at the back. Even half an hour against them could be gold dust for Coutinho, because I don't think he'll start like both the matches if they do get a double game week. And so that would be a kind of negative towards captaining him. However, he did the business in 20 minutes against United. So even 30 minutes, against some of these, these teams that he would be doubling up against could be good for him. My Maverick pick, just like yourself, I guess, would be Dennis or King. It's Maverick, as you say, because Norwich did quite well last game week and Watford not so much. But I guess it's that thought process of it's Norwich and maybe it was just a one-off that they did fairly well, and that hopefully Watford could snatch a little something. I love James's comment in the chat here for any new viewers. Nim has hair and Fergie has a beard.
Brilliant. Yeah. Just to clear that up.
Thanks, James. You have an absolute stellar season as James. All right, let's move on to discussion point 2. And I think the big discussion point this week, based on everything that's happening and the fact that there was a very big divide in the community come deadline on whether to go with Bruno or Ronaldo, based on the first match, you know, it looks like Bruno owners have done pretty well there, going in on him early, and he was low percentage owned. But what do we do with him now? For those of us that don't own him, and for those of us that do we hold on to him, or do we buy into him? What's your thoughts? And just before you start, cannot believe it. Game week 14 was the last time he did anything. Game week 4. I mean, right, sorry, so that's just me having a slight moan there.
No, and this is my answer, is that it purely depends on whether Ronaldo plays, because last year when Ronaldo wasn't there, Bruno was king, right? He was, he's the best player in the team when Ronaldo isn't there. And he acts like it and he plays like it. Obviously, his first goal was fortunate. It's probably fair to say, but he looked a lot more. For his second goal, he looked a lot more like the Bruno of last season. I would be hesitant to say that he would make that kind of run if Ronaldo was in the team. So I think a lot depends on whether Ronaldo plays this evening or not. As to whether we look at it moving forward, their fixtures actually are very good still for the next 5 weeks. I think the problem with Bruno, as I say, and you alluded to it, before the weekend, he'd only scored 1 goal in his last 22 appearances for Man United. So because I did a deadline stream last week and was saying, I don't understand why everyone's going for Bruno. Why is everyone going for Bruno? He's shown no form. He's done nothing all season. But obviously that was on the premise that Ronaldo was going to start. If Ronaldo didn't start, things then obviously automatically changed. So I think if Ronaldo plays this evening and looks like he's going to play on the weekend, I think you can probably leave Bruno for a couple of weeks. See if he has changed, see if he's playing more advanced, see if Rangnick is trying to get him, a bit more kind of involved in the play and stuff. And if so, you can bring him in for maybe game weeks 25, 26, 27 when they play Southampton, Leeds and Watford.
Yeah, sorry, I had a bit of technical issue there while you were. So it turns out we were in the wrong position with the cameras. So that's why James.
Why you said about the hair and the beard?
Yes.
Amazing.
So I was Fergie for just a second there. I got a feel of what it was all about, and you got to be me without even knowing about it.
Even better.
So we are back in the right space, but you are a little over now to the side, the other way.
This way?
Yep.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's better, buddy. Okay, so where were we? Bruno. Yes. So
I think if it's Ronaldo starts or not. I think it massively affects his output. I could have said that in 5 words, but I took
no, you helped me out. You really helped me out. Because
so
whilst you were chatting,
Bruno,
I got to do my bit. Yeah, very much the same as what you were saying. It's that thing where in my deadline stream, I was talking about he's a good hop along player, get on him. You could then go to maybe KDB and then on to Salah. And at that price, he's nice to do that with. I'm struggling. 11.7 million for somebody who didn't return, since game week 14. But still kind of able to have 7 goals and 3 assists in the season. Look, it's a tough one. If you didn't go him, I don't think there's any potential need, depending on whether Ronaldo starts tonight. If Ronaldo doesn't start tonight, I think that probably suggests that Rangnick is going to switch things up often, and Ronaldo may not be a kind of regular starter every week, and then that brings Bruno very much back into play, I think.
Yeah.
Tonight should show us a lot on whether Bruno is a kind of keep, a buy, or a sell, really. If Ronaldo starts and Bruno does well in this kind of new system that Rangnick is trying to kind of, set up, then I think we could consider somebody like Bruno again. But it's just I still can't believe it. I'm honestly still in shock that happened on the weekend. Honestly, I'm still like, where did he come from? Like, us content creators, our deadline streams, we were all over it. We were like, go Bruno. And then hardly any of us, and that is not an understatement, hardly any of us actually did it. No, we all said go for it, and then yeah.
I still think with the news we had off Rangnick saying Ronaldo is going to be available, I still think it's the right decision, knowing what we knew at the time, not to go with him. It's just those who gambled, it came off. And
Agreed.
and well done. Absolutely. You gambled and it paid off. But, from my perspective, when he scored the goals, I say it's just, I expected Ronaldo to play because that's what Rangnick more or less says. And when he didn't play, you think, oh my goodness, this means Bruno's going to be more advanced. And he did score. And well done to owners. But if you didn't pick him, I wouldn't be disheartened, because I still think with the information we had at the time, it was the right decision not to pick him. And it's easy to kind of look in hindsight, but those were the facts at the time.
No, they were, and everything was pointing towards him at least even being on the bench, even if he wasn't playing. So for him, to not even be on the bench, it was just a bit out of nowhere. But there you are.
Brentford game tonight. Ronaldo hat-trick. Bruno blank tonight. Look. That's what it's all
about. A Nuclear said Fergie experienced the feeling of having long, glorious hair on his head this time. You did.
First time since college.
And
I used to have
didn't even know
these
it.
curtains down to here when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you're old enough, Nim. Remember when boys had undercuts and things? I'm sure there's some people in the chat would remember, but boys used to lift up their hair and shave underneath it, and they have these undercuts. That's what I used to have in college. So
okay, we'll have to see if we can find a photo of that
for the viewers. Not that brave.
Okay, then let's move on to number 3. And as always, it's who is the player, if we own them, or maybe if we do own them, that we'd ship out ahead of game week 23. So who do you think is up there for getting rid of this week, Fergie?
Well, Chelsea just continue to disappoint, don't they? My goodness me. They're just
oh, it's like they just fell off of a cliff. What happened to them? It's like Chelsea fell off and Wolves got on the cliff.
It did.
In terms of defence.
It's like Wolves pushed Chelsea off the cliff, didn't they?
They literally did.
Strange. The reason for Chelsea, they've obviously got Spurs, who they've beaten a couple of times. But, for those who took maybe pens on Lukaku, for those who've got double Chelsea defence, for example, I still think a lot of people have maybe got Alonso and Rudiger, but, they do blank 3 times in the next 4 game weeks after next week. So especially if you're doubled up, it's worth getting rid of one. Got Rudiger. He's my only one in my team. Same. May hold on. He did score against Spurs, obviously, last week, in the Carabao Cup. So I'll probably just hold on to him. He's definitely gone next week. Yeah. So just if you've got a couple of Chelsea still, start to get rid one by one, because after Spurs this week, they only play once in the next 4 game weeks, which is away to Palace, which isn't an easy game either. So,
no, agreed.
Other than that, a bit of a tough. It's really hard because we're just waiting game to game for them all to be postponed. So you don't really know who to say. But have you got anyone in mind you want to get rid of?
Ronaldo. Rami said, I've heard that CR7 stayed at the hotel today. Ugh. Don't be saying stuff like that, buddy. God, why on earth would he bother going all of that way just to stay in the hotel room? I mean, it's a really fancy hotel room. It better be. I think if he doesn't start tonight, he will be up there for me to get rid of, to be honest. I'm not hanging about on that ship too long, and I will not be getting back on, I don't think, for a very long time, no matter what happens.
Their fixtures are good. That's the only problem. This is it. It's so easy to jump off, but after West Ham, they go Burnley, Southampton, Leeds, Watford. They're good fixtures. They're good attacking fixtures. All 4 of those. This is why it's really tough to.
I think those people, if they hold on to Bruno, are gonna have a bit of a dilemma in a couple of weeks if it turns out that Ronaldo isn't playing regularly when Salah returns, and whether what they're gonna do in terms of keeping Bruno or Salah. So it really has kind of blown the template open in that respect.
It has. It's absolutely brilliant in that regards, because you're right. It's there's so such a variation now. Obviously, like Trent is still got highly owned Cancelo, but even so, there's a lot of people are free hitting in all these game weeks, and they're missing out. So the actual EO of these key players are actually having a positive impact for people who've just held on to them. Both Trent and Cancelo kind of hold on the weekend, but their EOs are much lower than normal because a lot of people free hit it in.
Yeah.
Double Brighton defense and double.
Oh, I know.
And whatever other crap they put in there.
Rami says that was just a news he heard this morning. He personally wants him to show up. So, well, so do we, buddy.
Nice.
So do we.
Nice.
I think if you've got Arsenal attack, it could be potentially time to consider selling, some of those. Not that I think that we're a bad shout. We may get another look, obviously, in the cap of how they are doing, but I just think maybe potentially there's some better options now in those price ranges. And obviously, if you're still hanging on to Hwang of Wolves, his muscle injury, he's out until the 10th of February, I think. So another couple of weeks out for him if you wanted to move to somebody else. Okay, let's move on to number 4. We've discussed who we'd ship out, chuck in the bin, but who are we looking at ahead of Game Week 23, which could, at the moment, we don't know, potentially be a double for Aston Villa, who we think are the most likely to double, but there is a potential that Leeds might as well.
I think, firstly, if you haven't got Bowen, I think you just have to get him in. He's just looking like an amazing option at the moment. He's playing up front. He's basically scoring nearly every game. The fixtures are fantastic. Away to United, I think it's actually, I kind of agree with you, Nim, in terms of, your captaincy on Bowen is that away to United is just not a scary prospect these days, is it? And they then go home to Watford, away to Leicester, home to Newcastle. So the next 4 West Hams are still incredibly strong. If you haven't got Bowen, I just get in Bowen. But yeah, looking ahead at the doubles, Villa, they got amazing fixtures as well for a long time. Even if they double this week against Everton, who are obviously looking really poor, sack the manager, and they'll double with someone else. They're home to Leeds the week after. They got Newcastle the week after, and home to Watford the week after. So it's not a case of getting in players for a double game week. You'll be getting them in for the next month or two as well. So you mentioned Coutinho already. I mean, flipping heck, he was in the box. It's like I remember him at Liverpool. He used to do a lot of his kind of his good work, a lot of his shooting from outside the box. But the goal he scored was more or less on the line, right? And and the goal he made was deep in the box as well. So it looks like he could have a real impact on there. So he's definitely one I've got my eye on. I really like Watkins as a player as well. He always looks incredibly dangerous. He's good on the floor. He's good in the air as well.
In like recent weeks, I think, not to have got something.
Was it last season as well where he had loads of goals disallowed for offside and he was hitting the woodwork all the time? He's always there. He always looks incredibly dangerous. But then he will get the odd haul as well. I also like Luca Dean. So on his debut against United, he was on some set pieces, had 2 shots on target, I think, as well.
Wow.
Or 2 shots on box.
We loved him at Everton, but like early days, but it's just been rubbish more recently.
I think he'd be an amazing option at Villa. And so I think they're the 3, they're reasonably obvious, I think. And the only other thing I would say is, we will start to get news soon of fixture rearrangements, obviously going ahead for 23, maybe 24, 25, 26, etc., which will involve, a lot of Burnley ones, maybe a lot of Leicester, a lot of Arsenal. So I just maybe start having to think about who you like from those teams. Off the top of my head, it's pretty hard for Burnley because they're not much cop.
Yeah,
but,
no, I'm struggling with Burnley.
I really like Madison at Leicester. I think he's gone back a few seasons to how he was playing 3 seasons ago when he burst onto the scene. I think he looked absolutely magnificent. Arsenal, they've obviously got a fair few options. I personally like, and again they may be obvious, but Saka and Martinelli are the 2 I really like. I like their price, the fact they're midfielders, but they do play very high up the pitch as well. Odegaard's even a decent shout. So I think there's lots. I think there's lots and lots of options, and it's great because it diversifies all the teams as well. So that's what I've got my eyes on, and obviously we need to keep one eye firmly on the fact that Salah will likely be back.
Yes.
In game week 24. So whatever moves we make, we need to think about our team structure.
We do.
And make sure we don't pigeonhole ourselves. So if we need Salah back, that we have to take like a -8 or anything. So that's just another thing to consider.
Yeah.
Who have you got your eye on at the moment, Nim?
Just before I mention that, James is with you on the Digne punt. He actually owns him. James is 17th in the world right now.
Wow,
and he says he is oh no, he says he's going to hold off on him, sorry. Could be passionate at Goodson, and I expect he will be a target for red mist. Oh, so he's actually against Digne, so interesting. Okay. Yes, I agree. Coutinho's definitely up there for me. Ramsey, 4.6, incredible value at the moment.
It is, you're right there.
Goal and assist against Man United. So he's one I'm potentially considering. I'm loving the look at KDB. He looks, back to his best. 2 goals and 1 assist in the last 4 games. Southampton, Brentford and Norwich up next. So, they're really nice fixtures.
Yeah.
The other 2 that are kind of creeping into my thinking, Ward-Prowse. He has tough fixtures, but 4 goals and 2 assists in the last 5 games. He's just ticking away at that price point. And of course, Rafinha looked, really good on the weekend. So, yeah. If
I'm just a wild card.
I know.
So many amazing options.
I know.
Which is brilliant. I think between us here, we just mentioned about like 15
players. I know, but that's the problem, though. That is the problem, isn't it, at the moment? Everything's still so up in the air that even if you wildcarded at the moment, you could be wildcarding into chaos. So I think the main thing to do is to jot down some of these names that you really like. As you said, Fergie, keep an eye on them. And then when it comes around to things hopefully petering out a little bit and getting a little bit quieter and maybe having some game weeks actually scheduled in, double game weeks scheduled in ahead of time, then we'll be able to do a bit of planning. Oh, that's the hope. Anyway. Oh,
definitely.
James has gone up one place since we started talking. He's 16th, apparently.
Well done, James. How would you do that? Yeah. Can you do some tips?
Yeah, can we have some tips, please? Who do we pay on that one?
Just on the wildcard thing, I've seen a few people tended to wildcard this weekend. If the double is confirmed, but I really wouldn't do it. Obviously I was joking earlier, but I wouldn't wildcard into an international break. I know that Europe are not playing internationals, but there's also the FA Cup 4th round is played before the next lot of Premier League matches as well. So there's a lot of players will do a lot of traveling, and they will likely play FA Cup matches before the next games. What you don't want to do is kind of wildcard into this week and then realize that 3 or 4 of your players are are injured, they've got COVID or whatever else before, as we go into the really kind of, because there's a game week 24, which starts on the Tuesday evening, I think on February the 8th. Yeah. And then game week 25 then is the next Friday or Saturday, only 4 days apart. So you don't want to be wildcarding now when all the action is in 2 or 3 weeks time. So anyone who is considering, just hold off, just try and hold rank this week, get a small green. And then I think
a small green
after the break,
I think that'll very much depend on Ronaldo, my friend.
it will this evening. But I think that, like, if I think after this break now, because I've also seen that there's talk about the Premier League revisiting their rules around postponements after this weekend's games. I think they're going to kind of tighten up the rules. So I doubt we'll see many more postponements.
Yeah.
So we should be able to, really be able to plan after the break. And this is the time then when the engaged managers like ourselves, like everyone watching, will be able to really take advantage then. And that's the time to strike, not at a time when there's so much uncertainty still.
No, agreed. And Rafiki says Digne for captain. Wow. Okay.
If they double, it's hard. It's hard to argue.
Oof, well, yeah.
It's on set pieces of Villa as well.
Yeah, no,
It's
true.
on set pieces.
True. Okay, let's move on to our fifth and final discussion. And this one applies heavily to me based on my getting Ronaldo for Game Week 22. And it's, should we get a player, even if we don't want them, just to cover the percentage owned and the possibility of them being highly captained? Now, I know when I made my decision on Ronaldo, it was very much in fear and it was very much in percentage owned. And it was very much in the fact that he was topping all of the captaincy polls. And that is the only reason why. There was no other real kind of, I want him, he's in great form. Yes, he has a double fixtures, but honestly, did I want him? The answer would be not really. So is this something we need to think about a little bit more, Fergie?
I could talk for hours about this, honestly. For those who don't know, I play all sorts of fantasy football formats, and kind of ownership plays a massive part.
Champ.
In some of the other games.
Being very modest there.
Like Sky and Dream Team and Telegraph, player ownership is massive, and it makes decisions. I think it's the way to play an FPL. However, I always run into people who are like, play your own game, score as many points as you can and stuff. But there is a game within a game with ownership, and it all depends on what you're trying to achieve. It depends on your rank at the moment, and it depends where you want to be. So, just for example, my rank is, I think I'm just over 100k at the moment, which I don't really want to be there.
Yeah.
I want to try and get into the top 10k, which I still think I think is achievable. But I think what I look at is I look at opportunities, and I think this week, every week I try and look at something. I kind of call them like a hygiene week, which is just a tick week. And then there will be weeks, we haven't had many yet, where you can actually take a real punt and really go for it. But on these kind of hygiene weeks, for me, it's just a case of tick the week off and hold rank, try and get a small green, and I'm not really bothered. So to use your Ronaldo one, let's bear in mind my name. Ronaldo hasn't played yet this evening, and he could still score a couple of goals, and you could be going, it was a genius move. And again, it's pure hindsight, right? But I did the exact same thing, even though I think I said on this stream last week actually that I didn't fancy Ronaldo to get anything away to Villa regardless, but I did fancy him to get something at Brentford. But if he does even score this evening, going to get a green arrow, which will be fine. And he's done his job for me. So his job for me this week was just to enable me to hold rank or get a small green. If you didn't go for Ronaldo and you went for Bruno, just for example, those who gambled and it's paid off, amazing. You've flown up the ranks, right?
Yeah.
But if Ronaldo would have played and then Bruno hadn't got anything that Ronaldo would have scored to, you would have flown down the ranks. Yeah. Whereas with my team now, I've gone down like 4k, which I don't mind. I'm happy with that because I know I've got, or is it like 16 or 17 more game weeks left in the season for me to make that steady climb and to seek those opportunities to rise. So that's how I play the game. Now, it's not for everyone, and I'm probably never going to win FPL by playing that way, but that's not my ambition with FPL, in terms of, if anyone wins FPL, I think you've got to be in a position now, probably in the top few hundred to have a chance of winning it. So my ambition now is not to try and win it by doing things stupid and going overboard. It's to try and get into the top 10k. If I was 500k, I may have gone for Bruno captain, just as an example, because I'd have seen it as an outside opportunity to try and climb rank instead of just holding rank. So, that's how I play the game, and it's not for everyone. Everyone plays the game differently, but I like to mitigate my rank variance in hygiene weeks, and then I like to attack when I think there's a real opportunity, and it just wasn't one this week for me. So, hope that kind of explains my thoughts on it. And I suppose you could call it FOMO, which is what I assume you're kind of alluding to.
Yeah.
Do you see it as as FOMO, or do you see it as a game within a game, or how do you kind of see the whole percentage owned thing?
I think it is a fear of missing out, especially as this season I've tended to play what I would call very safe. So anyone that knows me and has followed me over the years will know that I have a tendency to be a little batches or with my picks and my transfers and my hits, and I tend to just kind of go with it, if that makes sense. Whereas this season I've really tried to rein it back, play it very safe, go very much with the crowd, and I've always done slightly better in the later half of the season. So my idea was be very safe with it, play as kind of, as template, I guess, as I can until, that later half of the season where I then usually, do my thing and gain a little back. And my hope was that if I do a little better earlier on in the season by being more template, that hopefully I can push myself up even further in the second half of the season. So when it comes to these players like Ronaldo, Benrahma early days, some of these players that felt very much that you have to have in your team, and very much you need Son there for a couple of game weeks before he got injured. Yep. It's felt very much like a fear of missing out rather than, do I really want this player? In Son's case, I did really want Son. Benrahma's case, I didn't really want him. And in Ronaldo's case, I didn't really want him. It was more a case of being template, following the crowd. Like you said, if Ronaldo did anything and he scored 2 goals... if Ronaldo did do something and he scored a couple of goals the first time around and Bruno had not done anything, then those that didn't follow the crowd really would have been in a lot of trouble, because he is highly captained this week. And it's that's kind of made me stop and think a little bit every time I go to make those batches or moves. Batches or for me this week would have been going Bruno, and the old me probably would have just done it with, in like a heartbeat and not even thought about the percentage owned or anything like that.
I've got an argument there for you, though. I have got an argument there for you. If you do that every week, you just won't have a good season.
No, you hit and miss. You hit and miss.
It's very. Sorry, I'm not suggesting you're saying this, but I think there's a line of thinking that, in hindsight, people think, if I would have done that, I would have had this. But then if you'd have done that every week, you wouldn't have had it, because you'd have missed all Salah's hat trick, all Salah's points. You would have missed all the really obvious player points.
Agreed.
And I think that's the important thing is a 1 week punt. You see it with people who put a triple captain on some really rogue captain, there was some on Bale last season, but it's very rare that those players, and it is, there's obviously exceptions and it does happen, but it's very rare those players actually have good seasons. And I say it all the time. I think I've said it every episode so far we're on here. The only rank that matters is Game Week 38, and that is it. So I just wanted to get that in. But I take your point, and you're absolutely right. But
no, I think that's kind of my point as well, is that I think you have to, it comes down to that luck skill debate, I guess, but I think you have to lean back on if you're going to play the game that way, and there are lots that do. I see Joseph says that he's been playing rough taking -4 over 5 game weeks, and he's got his team where he wants it to be, taking the risks that has paid off for him. And I think it is pretty much that they have to hit, those risks have to hit, and they don't always hit. And it's usually why at this stage I'm having to catch up. It's usually at this stage where I'm usually around 500k or 300k, not dancing in and outside the 100k, for instance, where I'm at now, because I've taken far more risks, in the lead up to this second half of the season. And then in the second half of the season, I play really safe. I plan everything. I'm going to use my chips here. I'm going to use chips there. I'm going to, all of that sort of stuff. So I kind of just flipped the script a little bit and tried to do that all the way through the season, I guess, rather than just in the second half. But it's it has made for I think, for me, a more feared situation when it comes to those players, if you see what I mean. Is what I was trying to get at more with the Bruno comment, is that my old self would be less worried to have gone with Bruno than what my new self is, because I'm so trying to cover the template at the moment, if that makes sense.
But I still think that Bruno, and I'll get pelters for this, but I still think that Bruno was a poor transfer in, and obviously I do, and it's obvious that people will say, but he scored the points, and I completely understand that, and I do, but he scored 1 goal in his last 22 games. He wasn't showing any form whatsoever.
Nope.
And the word was Ronaldo was going to play. So I said this on my deadline stream, I stick by it, and I always get pelters for this, and it's fine, because, I say what I think, but I still think it was it was a gamble on Ronaldo not playing. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And I think owners got lucky with the first goal. Don't get me wrong, took the gamble that paid off, right? So I'm not saying that you don't deserve the points. You absolutely do, because if you gamble like that, you deserve the points. But I'm not disappointed with the Ronaldo captaincy, because I still think it was the right thing to do. And in terms of the person in chat with hits, I completely agree. I've been taking it. I think I've taken a hit the last 4 or 5 game weeks.
Haven't we all? I don't think there's many of us that wouldn't have done, to be honest.
But I see it as like, I've taken a hit to get Ronaldo in this week to protect my rank, and that's how I see it. Whereas next week, the week after now, where there's these doubles, we can plan properly, and whatever, there will be opportunities to really kind of rank carving sort of scores, but still not taking too many risks, because you'll still have Trent, still have Cancelo, still have Salah, still have the these players you need. So, but I know I'll take pelters for the Bruno comment, but that's just how I feel.
No, it's fine, and I agree to an extent. I don't think he was necessarily for the wrong move, as McTavius and James has said in the chat. A lot of people will have seen him as a placeholder for Salah, and that was very much what I was saying in my deadline stream last Friday as well, that he is definitely the move if you wanted to bounce along, for sure. Like without a doubt. But in terms of his form and in terms of luck, I think, I do think the people that went for him, other than the fact that they felt like he was a good placeholder for Salah, I do feel like it was just a luck,
Look at all
the thing.
All the stick that Antonio owners, he hadn't scored for 6 weeks. Look at Tony, he hasn't scored for 8 weeks. Bruno scored 1 goal in his last 22 games.
I know.
I mean, and all of a sudden people are bringing in and captaining him, and it's paid off. I know it sounds like I'm bitter, because I'm not. Because I think,
you are, but it's fine.
No, it's I honestly not, and anyone who did it deserves it, but I still don't think it was a good transfer in with what we knew at that time, and that's what I keep referring back to. It's easy in hindsight to say, I should have, put Ward-Prowse, because he's going to score a 35-yard in the top corner. Didn't know this,
Yeah, and if we're honest with ourselves, I think if most people are honest with themselves, if we were sat here the other way around, where Bruno had blanked yet again, and Ronaldo had played and done something, then it would be a very different story. But that is, I guess, the joys and the woes of FPL, is that if you take those punts and they happen to come off, then it's the most amazing feeling in the world, so you can't begrudge 100%. Bruno owners, and captainers for that, because
I don't begrudge them at all, and
absolutely.
I applaud them, and I'm pleased, because it was a gamble, but a gamble which really paid off, which needs applauding. Absolutely.
But for the rest of us, we're just really sad.
We won't be tonight.
I hope
we won't
not.
be tonight.
I hope not. Although every time you say that, you curse it.
I know. I've got this thing where I always message Nim on a Saturday saying,
he does it on purpose.
This is the week. This is the week.
It's never the week.
It's never the week. We're in game week 23, for God's sake. I think it's game week 4.
Tonight is the night. It's the night.
No, never is.
Ronaldo night. Never. No, it never is. One day we'll celebrate, buddy. One day.
But I think, to kind of make the point which we talked about around ownership and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Our teams for most of the season, I think it'd be kind of reasonably similar. I think our ranks are fairly.
We've
similar,
both played extremely template this season.
I think you're just above me, aren't you? But even to be sat, like, neither of us have had that game week yet where everything's clicked and our gambles have paid off, and captains hold at the same week, and you get that rank halving game week. That hasn't happened yet, but we're still hovering around 100k, which so, and we haven't had that rub of the green yet. So this is why I'm confident that keep playing this way, then we'll have a good finish. We'll get that bit of luck.
We're all focused on United, and this is when all those people who transferred in Kane and Lucas Moura and all of those on their free hit, like Spurs win 5-0 and completely smash out the park, and everyone's going, well,
oh my goodness, I clean forgot about that game. My goodness.
Imagine that, so that could have a bit of an impact on the old rank as well. All right, that's it, you guys. That's our 5 things FPL for Game Week 23. Have an amazing game week. Let us know if you enjoyed the stream in the comments below. Please like and sub and hit that notification bell so you know when we're going live next. You can also find a link to Fergie's Twitter below. So it's goodbye from me for now, and a goodbye from Fergie.
Best of luck, everyone. Hope you absolutely smash it as usual.
Thanks for joining me, buddy. Nymphrya times Fergie out.